Hello, and welcome to TSTV, a podcast where I, Sadie, guide my friend Lily through the wild world of Twin Peaks. This is our intro episode.
Welcome, folks.
Yes, welcome. Right off the top, if you are listening to this on release, this should go up on Monday, February 10th, 2025. And that means that if you're listening to this at release in 2 weeks, on February 24th, the first 2 episodes of our show will be available. Our episode on the Twin Peaks pilot will go up for everybody. And our second episode, which is on episode 1 of the show, because Twin Peaks, it differentiates between the pilot and then the next episode is episode 1. Don't worry about it.
It never gets normal.
No.
It's always confusing.
But so, yes, if you want, the second episode of the show will be on our Patreon immediately for everyone. Our Patreon, which you can find just by going to tstv.show.
Sadie snatched up that domain. Super slick. Yeah, so every episode is going to come out a full 2 weeks early over there. You'll be 1 episode ahead, which I think is kind of nice. What else is on the Patreon, Sadie?
There is a whole bonus show, TSTV at the Movies, where once a month we will watch a movie. It's usually David Lynch inspired or something that inspired David Lynch. Our very first bonus episode is on I Saw the TV Glow, the hit transgender film of last year at this point. And
it was new when we talked about it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is we started recording the show like 7 months ago.
Yeah.
And you will certainly notice that some of our references are somewhat dated. And, well, I mean, David Lynch was still alive when we started making this show.
Yeah. But yeah, so real quick, just bonus episodes. The first one, or the first TV Glow, the movie episode, will be for everybody as a little free trial. That'll be out the week after everything else, so on March 3rd. Again, if you're listening to this in the future, then these are all made-up numbers too. You can just, rotate them in your mind. But yeah, check that out. It'll be for everyone. And if you like it, and you think I wish I had more of these, then tstv.show is the place to go. All that out of the way.
TSTV. Twin Peaks podcast. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, Lily, what's the shtick? How would you describe our show?
Sure. So, Sadie, you, my dear friend of many, many years, are a big David Lynch fiend. You've been having a real moment with his works over the past couple years. Mm-hmm. And I am a relative outsider, but you know my taste. I love some freaky stuff. Mm-hmm. And you basically, you've been bugging me to watch this show for, 2 years or something. And you finally realized that the way to get a content creator to do it would be to make a podcast out of it.
Yeah. Got to get that sweet, sweet content out of you.
That's it. So the show is Sadie introducing me, ushering me gently into the wild world of Twin Peaks. Obviously, she is a seasoned professional, has many sort of metatextual and foreshadowy thoughts that I am missing on first viewing, and I get to come on with the fresh baby eyes. That's a saying. I suspect that some of the people listening, like me, are new to the show. So just to explain a little bit what the show is, basically the premise is that a string of murders and attempted murders have happened around the town of Twin Peaks, Washington, and a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed FBI agent by the name of Dale Cooper has come to investigate using his his meditation and vision-y methods.
Yeah. Particularly, the pilot is the town is rocked by the murder of Laura Palmer, kind of the town sweetheart, the prom queen. And it does a lot of using that idea, that premise, to launch into kind of being a soap opera. In fact, I think in a lot of ways, very much being a soap opera. David Lynch, his vision for it was that there's this central mystery running through of who killed Laura Palmer, and that pushes you to find out about all of the kooky characters around town and all of the schemes and aspirations and romances and affairs that they're all getting up to. So I would say expect something that is a cross between 40% procedural investigation drama, 40% soap opera, and like 20% peeks behind the curtain at the like 20% Lynchian horror, basically, or surreal horror. Maybe less than 20%, even, honestly, at the beginning.
It looms large in the mind, but it's usually pretty brief moments. And I
Yeah.
do want to say, I think well, look, if you know either me or Sadie, you're probably pretty open to this kind of thing. But I do want to say, like, this was a super popular show. It is super beloved, and like,
Yeah.
yes, it's weird, but I would say it's very accessible. It has just so much goof and charm about it. And I feel like, in this era of like every TV show is 6 episodes every 4 years, it's kind of nice to just like enjoy some TV bullshit sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. It is, I think, very much about the, like, tonally, it is about this tension between this charming, funny, goofy soap opera, or, around this town, and the, like, satisfying, oh, look at Dale Cooper, he's figuring things out, investigation into the murder, and looming behind it, and I would say kind of growing in presence throughout the show, is like this murder speaks to a fundamental evil. This young woman was brutally murdered in this town, as expressed through this Lynchian horror, which means that if you stick around till the end of Twin Peaks, it is very concerned with that evil and that horror and the Lynchianness. But especially near the beginning, it is a lot of just having fun with genre and having fun with hijinks and investigation and all that. With a looming horror in the background that will grow over the years as we do this show.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the shtick is I've seen the show and Lily hasn't, and I'm shepherding her through and asking pointed questions such as, "Oh, that's crazy. What do you think about that?"
Basically getting me to build out like a whole theory of the show before I've seen most of it. I think one of our most fun segments is every episode I have to predict what'll happen in the next one. And I'm going to say that I've gotten it right, like maybe twice.
Honestly, though, I feel like you very quickly have figured out the vibe of what to predict for the next time on Twin Peaks. You're always right in spirit in my heart.
I appreciate that.
I also have Lily keeping tally of who she thinks killed Laura Palmer. And we started trying to make ourselves dream about Twin Peaks by thinking about it. And it took a while for it to kick in, but after a few, we have some let me tell you guys, there are some banger Twin Peaks dreams that we both had. So stay tuned down the line. So
Let's talk about... You go.
Oh, I mean, I know you said it before, but just, yeah, we're talking about this in the past because we've recorded a lot of this. And yeah, you will hear us talk about, like, David Lynch being alive and, like, teasing new projects and stuff. And that'll be weird. I think my favorite thing, like, detail of us having recorded so much in advance is there's it's like 10 episodes in or something, but the episode where we were just kind of crazy the whole time because it was the morning of the US election.
Oh fuck yeah! A lot of these have come in at like very strange moments in our lives. One episode we had to record like a couple hours before I was leaving on an international flight, and I just had the genius idea that to speed things up, I would reward myself for with a candy every time we got through a scene
by eating a treat. Yeah,
like a little marshmallow, and it just made it so much slower. Look, this is. I think we get into some very interesting analysis, but we're also pretty goofy with it. Like I think we bring our very entertaining report of this.
Uh-huh.
Sadie, you are someone I've known almost my entire life. We went briefly to high school together, although many years apart.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah, most famously, you introduced me to Minecraft back in 2011.
Yes, exactly. I also, God, I don't remember if we talked about this on mic at some point, but if we did, then listeners, you'll get to hear the anecdote twice, which is that I was a bit of I don't know, what would you'd call a class clown in high school, and had a running bit with my Spanish teacher where I would just walk into a classroom that she was teaching and say which celebrity birthdays it was in Spanish. and this was just a shithead teenager thing I was doing. And then it was like last year, 2 years ago, I was talking to Lily and I was like, do you remember any of our interactions from like pre-transition? And you were like, yeah, you came into my classroom and like told us something at some point. I was like, oh my God, I Spanish celebrity newsed you.
You really did. Obviously, I didn't speak Spanish, so this was lost on me. But yeah, we grew up in the same neighborhood. There's like lots of, I think, kind of sweet shared history there. And pretty significantly, you were one of the first trans people that I knew, and you were like nudging
Yeah.
me to explore all that, even when we barely knew each other.
Yeah, I clocked this girl before she did. So
It's true.
this is the world's first mother-daughter Twin Peaks podcast.
Oh, that's so cute.
which I do think is part of what we're bringing to it. I think listen, we as we're recording, we are about to get to a transgender character in Twin Peaks, and I'm very excited. But I think Twin Peaks has a lot to say about gender, and I think that if you listening are transgender, or even if you're not, and you think let's hear what two bitches that have thought about gender a lot have to say about it, tstv.show is the place to go. Otherwise, I guess like we talked a bit about it, but so I had first seen Twin Peaks in 2021, I think. For a long time, I was like, one day I'm going to watch Twin Peaks and I'm going to love it. But I didn't for a while because I know that it's like I knew some of the pretty broad content warning stuff about the show, which, by the way, at the end of this episode, I will talk about some of that. I'll get into it a bit later. But basically, it took me a while to watch Twin Peaks. And when I did, it blew my mind, sent me down a David Lynch kick. And honestly, I think I released my first book of poems I always forget if it was 2022 or 2023. And after that, wasn't writing very much. You can buy it, by the way, Horrible Dance by Avery Lake.
It's so fucking good. And check out the video that we made together for one of the poems as well.
Oh, yeah, we made a sick video. Yeah, if you search like Avery Lake Horrible Dance Pop Quiz on YouTube, it is
grimy,
sick.
it's nasty. It's one of my favorite things I've ever made personally.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, so like honestly, I think getting into David Lynch in a big way like got me writing again and like inspired me to be writing again. And it's like I don't know, I owe that guy a lot.
Yeah.
And Lily, like you said, I know your tastes. I know you like weirdo stuff. I know you like stuff that is forthright about the horrors of being a woman.
Oui, madame.
And so I was like, I knew you would like Twin Peaks, but tell me a bit like about your history with David Lynch and like what kind of shows and movies and etc. you're drawn to and all that.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because what was your first David Lynch?
My first David Lynch was with you a couple years ago. I think it was Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But no, my relationship is very fresh and is definitely still evolving to David Lynch's work. As a general rule, I think of my taste as like a Vietnamese coffee kind of thing, where it's all the way intense and all the way sweet. It's got to be both, Like I don't like something that's really brutal and bleak. I also don't like something with no tension to it. So I think Twin Peaks is like really scratches that itch as far as like it has camp and melodrama and also just like total abjection and horror. And I still don't understand how it does both at the same time. The tonal shifts in this show make me believe that anything is possible. Like you can just pull anything off in art.
Yeah, it's crazy for real.
I am a person, as listeners may or may not know, who makes YouTube videos for a living, and that whole thing over the past 4 years has oddly made me much less confident in my own like thoughts and creative approach. Like I immediately think of how will this be considered? How will this be received publicly? And I think watching the show with you has been really restorative to like my approach to creativity. It's just got me thinking like, yeah, trust your intuition, do some weird shit. People will, if not understand it, at least appreciate it probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always said I could not do what you do. I don't think I could either make a living or make my art on anything that has a comment section, I am not built like that. But I think honestly, like so much of David Lynch and Twin Peaks especially is like, because Twin Peaks was like hugely successful. The first season like blew up. And I think a lot of how I think about art as informed by Twin Peaks is like, yeah, you can make anything work. It's just about sticking the landing and about confidence. And like, there's a lot of things that people would tell you, no, I don't like that. It doesn't work. It's too weird. But if you have the panache and you pull it off and you're confident and you're cunty, then like you will, you
You didn't
know?
see me, but I just did like a sassy little snap. I hope that
That's
got
what I'm
picked up.
saying. That's what I'm saying. It's time to put the TSTV in TSTV.
Oh, God bless. Listen, do we have anything else to say? Maybe we should talk a little bit about, David Lynch.
um,
Like the man. This is a show about specifically Twin Peaks. But of course we will be spending time with his other works. I think on
mm,
the bonus feed on Patreon and Nebula, we will probably work our way through his filmography over the
yeah,
months.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I said what he really just like genuinely as an artist transformed how I think about art and
Yeah.
like reinvigorated me to get back into my art and my writing, watch out for my novel one of these days. And I don't know, it's like truly fucking nobody did it like him, you know?
But everyone's trying to, and that's also really wonderful. Like I
Yeah.
seeing the outpouring of actor like artists from every discipline saying how much he informed what they do. It makes perfect sense, and it's just
Yeah,
like
for real.
what a thrill. I wish he could have had time to finish everything that he wanted to make. I wish
Yeah.
getting funding would have been easier for him. I wish there was like less meddling. But seriously, what an incredible body of work. Yeah, we will have our criticisms of his approach and the show. I would say more and more as things go on, as I get a better grasp on like what the show is succeeding and failing at.
Mm.
But I do want to like say that all of that comes from a place of like appreciation and wanting to understand the dude and his work and all its complexity. R.I.P. King.
Yeah, Rip King. Honestly, it's really like I think going over the episodes that we've recorded already, I think it's great seeing like I think some of the early stuff, right? I was like, I don't know, Lily, what do you think? You're like, fuck, I don't know.
It's true.
Eek.
It's true.
But I think I'm like, it's been really great because I feel like we're at a point now where you know Twin Peaks enough and like your own like how you feel about it to be like, yeah, this is working, this isn't. I know that and I can say that. And I think that like you like learning how to speak the language of a David Lynch project and like getting to a point of like, yeah, I can speak this and then I can critique it also. I think is like a really cool journey that I think exists in the stuff we've recorded so far.
I think so too. I think, yeah, we really come into our own before long. Also, just in general, watch this fucking show.
Oh my god, yeah, for real.
We're launching on Twin Peaks Day very, purposely,
Yeah.
in the hopes that people will be like watching the show around that time of year. Maybe if you do an episode every, hmm. Well, we're probably watching a little slower than most people will, but I would love if people watched along, essentially, is my point.
Yes. I expect that there will be people that are doing what I've done with like shows, like podcasts about shows where I start watching with the podcast and then I just finish the show and then I keep listening to the podcast. You know, I think that's why I was like,
Yeah.
we'll do a recap and like go through scene by scene, because probably that'll happen. But yeah, watch Twin Peaks, you guys, and listen. We will in the show itself talk about our like relationship and approach to the kind of infamous Twin Peaks season 2. But listen, watch season 2. And there's so many people that have watched like old Twin Peaks and haven't watched The Return. And let me tell you guys, you got to watch Twin Peaks The Return. We'll get there when we get there, but it's fucking amazing. Anyway, one thing I alluded to earlier also is that Twin Peaks is a show with some pretty notable content warnings to it. I think some of that is stuff that it is engaging with some pretty heavy territory.
Hmm.
And I would say doing so well, doing so in a way that I feel like engages with it successfully. I think there's also some stuff to note about where it is clumsy or even frankly just straight up offensive at points.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is at the end of each episode, we're just going to talk through some of what the content warnings for the next episode are. So right after this episode, after our closing theme, I'm going to talk through what I think you should know before you sit down to watch the show Twin Peaks as a whole, if you are someone who feels like you would want to know some of these content warning stuff. I'll be broad and vague, but there will be some spoilery, it will touch on spoilers.
You might be able to deduce what we are referring to, like, more specifically.
And I'll talk about the pilot episode in particular. And then, so at the end of each episode of our podcast, content warnings for the following episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have anything else?
I think we're ready to give them our famous goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, folks. We were really excited to just go on this journey with you. It's been so long in the making. Appreciate our banger music that I'm going to phase in right now. Isn't that great?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
If you're listening to this when it comes out, look forward to the episodes. If a whole bunch is already out, well, enjoy.
Yeah. Feast.
Bye. TSTV is hosted by Sadie Avery Lake and yours truly, Lily Alexandre. Our music is by Jamie Page. The art is by Mya Fernandes-Giles. This episode was edited by me. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at hellotstv@gmail.com. We may include your mail on a future episode of the show. Let us know if that's okay. If you want to support the show and gain access to our monthly bonus episodes, head over to tstv.show. See you next time.
Content warnings for Twin Peaks. So once again, spoilers. Be advised. We're talking about things that happen in the show. So I think the main thing to know about Twin Peaks is that it is often a goofy show. It is also a show about a young woman being murdered after experiencing sexual violence. And there are points in the show where it is pretty forthright and harrowing about sexual violence. Particularly, it gets into like incest and child sexual assault. I'm going to say like especially the movie. The way it handles these things, mostly, I think it handles them well. I think it has a lot of empathy. But it is, especially in the movie and in some parts later on in the show, it gets pretty grim and pretty serious. The other big thing to know, the show has some pretty pointed anti-Asian racism. Throughout, there's an instance of yellowface. It has Asian characters that it really treats very poorly, and the way that the show portrays its characters of color going through bad things feels much less empathetic and much more exploitative, I would say. There's also definitely some fetishizing indigeneity and like indigenous spirituality, especially later in the show. Like we talked about, there's some representations of trans women that are clumsy. Honestly, I come out of it being mostly affectionate, but certainly clumsy. And also, I think some ways that the show deals with disability and disabled characters that is not great. So that's the show as a whole. As for the next episode of the show in particular, the pilot, big thing, I mean, they find Laura Palmer. That's the show. There's a dead body. There is a scene of like reaching under the fingernail of the dead body, like some doing an autopsy in ways that is intentionally squicky and like disturbing. Also, I guess I didn't say this for the show broadly, but there is a whole subplot following Leo and Shelley. Leo is an abusive husband. Basically, if you see Leo Johnson on screen with Shelley, you can expect that he's going to be abusive to her. It's not handled disrespectfully, but it's also like not really dwelled on in a way that makes it super intense, I would say. But it happens, and be advised. That's what I would say for the pilot. All that out of the way, thank you for coming to our intro episode, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this to be out. I hope you guys love it. Enjoy Twin Peaks.